Xavier, if you can hear
Yo,
me, give me the thumbs up.
of course I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good to go. We're good to go. All right, awesome, tight. Let me get these questions pulled up real quick. Chat, make some noise real quick for my man Malcolm Xavier, WKYS 93.9. He is in the building finally, man. It's a pleasure to have you on my show tonight.
What's popping, man? How you going? How you doing? It's a
I've
pleasure
been,
to be here.
oh, dude, pleasure's all mine. Trust me. Like, I remember when I first saw you at Heist, and you were doing your Wednesday nights,
Uh,
and
was that
yeah.
that was the first time we met?
First, no, actually, the first time we met was the DJ City link up at Lost Society for the Red Bull 3 style.
Yes, that makes sense. Here.
Yeah,
That,
that was dude, you were killing it. Like that was impressive because there were no ladies in that room. It was all DJs and dudes, and
yeah,
like to have like dudes really rocking with you, that's genuinely impressive, bro.
yeah. No, that was a interesting room. It wasn't just it was dudes. It was DJs.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
everything was being scrutinized to like the 10th degree. But yeah, just I went in just to have fun. I wasn't really even tripping about having an amazing set because like I knew there's literally Red Bull, contestants in the room. I'm not going to outdo them, right?
Yeah, I mean that was definitely an impressive set though. Like I walked up and shook your hand because like I think you have a very good knowledge of music, and it shows already earlier in your DJ career that you've really picked up on that concept very well. Like you've really studied other DJs and their craft, and this is like this is like your nerd thing, kind of. So it definitely shows, and it's very impressive to say the least.
No, I appreciate that, bro. I really appreciate that.
All right,
For
so let's get into these questions. I got 10
okay,
questions for you.
yeah.
So let's do it. All right, starters. As I ask every DJ first question off the bat. How did you get started into DJing? What were some of your early DJ moments? How did it all become to fruition?
Um, so I think I have two starts of DJing, but I'll give you the first one. I was actually in college. I was throwing a party. It was like a really, really big party. Like it was probably like 600 people were there. And the DJ that was on, the crowd was not feeling. He just did not have he was a good DJ. But the crowd just was not feeling him because he didn't have the music that they wanted to hear. He was doing like a lot of mashup stuff. Like he was like a super, I guess, AM fan. And the crowd just wanted like at this point it was like Lil Wayne was like the hot thing. So he looked back at me. He was just like, "Do you have all these songs that they want?" I was like, "Yeah, of course. They're on my laptop." He was like, "All right, cool." Put Serato on my laptop and he's like, "All right, you can finish the party."
So you literally installed Serato at the party for the first time and then DJ'd
Yes,
the party.
yes. And I had no idea what I was doing.
I've heard a story about you where you DJ'd like with a laptop screen that was like three quarters broken for a year straight or something.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. That's factual. I I was headed to a gig one time. I came, this is probably like 2016, 2015, 2016. And I was in a car accident at like, say like 5 p.m., right? It was a pretty bad car accident. And car's totaled. My girlfriend at the time comes to pick me up. She takes me back to her house. I'm like, all right, well, I at least have this gig so I can start stacking up money to get a new car, right? So I open up my laptop and I see, oh shit, there's no screen. Like I can't do anything. It was just enough screen for me to, if you hit space, the space bar when you're in Serato, you can search and scroll like most of the songs. So I was just like, this is what I have to work with. I can't do anything else. But it was the best thing to happen to me as a DJ too, because it really forced me to like really let go of the screen and pay attention to my ear more than anything. And
Amen.
also let
Amen
go,
on that.
yeah, and also, I had these super organized crates and I used to just play off of that. And it forced me to say, you know what? You can't use that system that you've pre-made at home. You got to really come in and like trust your gut and read the room to figure out where to go next, not just what you think is going to work.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I mean, shout out to DJ XL. I saw him live in Vegas a couple years ago, and he invited me into the booth, just to hang out and have a drink. And I
Mm.
noticed he has no crates in his Serato. He searches for every song on the fly in his library. And it's
Yeah.
so impressive because the knowledge of music to be able to do that on such a high performing level that he does it in, it's insane to me. Like, I'd be so lost because there's just certain crates I need that I have to get to at certain points in the night to know where I'm going with my roadmap per se. So, all right, getting back. I know we got kind of sidetracked.
Yeah.
Getting back.
Yeah.
What was moment number two? Because that was moment number one with the big party. What's
Yeah. Okay.
moment number two?
So moment number two was actually the first Joy Club party, and that was 2015, May 2015, Velvet Lounge. Um, Actually, it was before the Joy Club party because at that point in time at Velvet, for whatever reason, I had to audition. It was like me and my partner Cam Dooley. We just like formed Joy Club and we were trying to get into Velvet of all places. And they made us audition and they only gave us like 15 minutes to audition. And it was the worst audition because it was like we hadn't planned anything and it sounded pretty bad. Um, but I remember walking outside and talking to I forget his name. I guess the manager or the owner of the spot. I was like, "Yo, can you give us like a night?" He's like, "Absolutely not. That shit sounded terrible." And I was just like, "Yo, we can pack this place out. I guarantee it." He's all right. You can have every third Tuesday of the month, which it was like a bullshit day because like who's coming out on the third Tuesday of a month? But we made it work.
Hey man, you made it work. That's crazy though that Velvet was auditioning DJs back in 2015.
I, hey, I don't. I don't know of anyone else that's ever had to have an audition to DJ at Velvet, but I know that I did.
I
So hey,
I, I auditioned for Pure Lounge on U Street back in 2009, and that was my first ever spot in DC. Believe it or not,
wow.
was Pure Lounge on like Mondays, I think, or something like that. And I forgot the promoter's name, but there was like some DJ who was a resident at Lotus, some girl, and then myself. And she just hit me up after and was like, "You're the one that put it together the best, so I'm gonna need you every Monday." So yeah, that's my beginning of DC was an audition on U Street, just like you, man.
Yeah, the U Street is like the proving ground for most DJs. If you can start there and really build up a genuine audience, you'll be well because those people that follow you on U Street will follow you pretty much wherever you go next.
Yeah, I completely agree with that because the U Street mix of people is so awesome because you can get a lot of good culture mix on U Street on a good Saturday night there or a good Friday night or a good night in general.
Yeah,
It's just got a good mix of people. So I think if a DJ can survive a residency of a couple months on a U Street location, I think they're a pretty solid DJ in my opinion. And if they can obviously build a night, it's not just based off skill and all of that stuff. But yeah, man, I totally agree with you in that point.
yeah.
So, you're originally from this region, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Born and
Born and
raised.
raised. Now, what specific location is? Are you PG? Are you DC? Are you other part of Maryland? Are you Virginia?
Born in DC, raised all over Maryland, like literally all over Maryland.
Do you
Um,
have a favorite part that you grew up in Maryland?
I would say the part where I went to high school, I was in Charles County, which is like Southern Maryland. So that's like Waldorf, St. Charles, Indian Head, all those little pockets of niche cities and towns. That's those are that's the area that made me who I am. I would say.
Yeah, our fire department used to have a function in Akakeek. That's down in that neighborhood too. So
Yeah, I've lived in Akakeek too. If I went, I could literally tell you like I've lived in Largo, Upper Marlboro, Bowie, Akakeek, White Plains, College Park, Hyattsville. I bounced around a lot. You know what I'm saying? Especially as a kid, like it was like every other year I was in a different house. So it was, I lived all over. But Accokeek definitely, that's all in that Southern Maryland region, right down 210 or Indiana Head Highway.
It's really pretty down there too because it's right off the water. Most of it is. So
Yeah,
I definitely could see myself retiring down there someday for sure. I could see myself retiring in Maryland near the water someday. Absolutely.
that would be ideal. That would be that's living the dream, right?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Like, I think right now my favorite is North Beach and Chesapeake Beach. That's like my goal, like getting a house there.
Yeah, I want to say I can't remember what area it is, but I think where I'm talking about it's like more in Arundel County. There's like these little beaches and private beaches where people have homes and it's just right off the water. You can literally walk down and you're just sitting out looking at the ocean or the Chesapeake Bay. It's the most beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, my buddy has a house on the Chesapeake Bay. It's I mean, it's a gorgeous house. All right, so specifically in this area, I want to know one bad thing that you don't like and one good thing that you do like.
Is this just overall or music?
Overall, it can be anything. Like something that really sticks out that like, dude, if you had to move, it would be because of this reason, and then if you had to stay, it would be because of this reason.
If I had to move, it would literally be because everyone in this area is really kind of quick to hate and slow to love. Um, it's one of those like we are such a show and prove area. We are not going to show you love until even I fall victim to it sometimes until we feel like you have earned that appreciation from us. You've earned that validation level from us. So, if you're a DJ, if you're an athlete, if you're a comedian, doesn't matter what it is. We want to make sure if we're going to support you, you need to be good. Whereas in other areas, people are very just more open to like, oh, you do this, you do X, Y, and Z. There's no like barrier. There's no like entry level. Like at least you need to be at this level for us to like you. Um, but at the same token, I will say that produces some of the best DJs in the country because you have to be able to perform for that level of audience that really knows exactly what they want. And DJs in other cities, I don't think can compete with DJs that are residents in this area. The thing that would keep me here, um, is that same thing, man. It's that uniqueness. Like the fact that I hate it, but I love it at the same time. And obviously, I spent a lot of time traveling. The past couple of years DJing, and I always felt like I had an advantage because I could play at a pace that other people just couldn't play at, and I could understand things and read a room a lot faster than most other guys because the rooms in DC, the Rose Bars, the Ozios, um, the St. Eves, those club rooms where people are literally coming in and standing like this and waiting for you to do something to impress them, you know, that's that can really test you as a DJ, you know. And it's like once I leave this city and I go to Boston or I go to LA or I go to Miami and people are just like, "Oh shit, you're so great, you're so good," and it's just like I would never get that same reaction just at home. But the fact that I'm forced to work 10 times harder at home, it makes it 10 times easier when I go anywhere else. So that's the same thing that keeps me here.
I can't agree with you more on that. Like, I think we are very blessed with the DJ population in this area. Like, absolutely. Like, and I think it's also as you said, it prepares us for gigs in outside of this region that are a little bit kind of like, oh, okay, like I got this. Like, I've been through some pretty difficult situations in DC. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I think I've heard one of the tougher crowds is Philly. Philly has a really tough crowd.
Yeah,
Um,
I can believe that.
and I mean, New York City has a serious hip hop head crowd that you have to know your hip hop with. So,
Yeah, exactly.
I think every kind of area has its own little niche, but I think you do have a very strong point with like just how well the DJs in this area can read a room and how they can change things on a dime and make it much better. Like I can't begin to look at the first like three guys I got on my show: Jerome Baker, you know, DJ Wonder. Technically, he's not a DC guy; he's a Delaware guy, but still, I
Like
mean,
he's still the guy.
close enough. You know, like
Yeah,
he like. I just think that a lot. I think DC is overlooked. I agree with you. I think that if we were to have, I wish we had. I had a conversation with multiple guys about the nightlife market level of this area. And I
hmm
think if we could seriously support the out of town, higher end market DJs, I think the DC guys would get more out of town gigs because they would be able to network with the bigger guys coming in. And we just can't support that with our nightlife market right now. Like we have a
no,
lot of
yeah,
local talent, and a lot of local talent gets really good with each other.
yeah.
At pause, that sounds really weird, but like
You're good.
but and then they go on with their careers to elsewhere. But I think if DC could just support that bigger nightlife market that supports the A market DJs from like DJ Koo in Tampa and all the big Vegas guys and all the the scam artists and all those guys. You
You
don't
know,
really see them in DC. I see them at Living Room and that's it. Like maybe once a month at Living Room, if that. But I
there.
don't see them at the clubs that you're mentioning, like St. Ives, Rose Bar, all these Abigail's. You don't see them there, and I think that's a really strong point that you brought up. That I would love to see them in those rooms, and let's see what's up. Like, are we off? Is there like a side note challenge right now?
I'm up for the challenge. I think with those other guys that play those big rooms, I think we all know what the issue is just the budget is not the same. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not going to get the same thing as you would at Tao at St. Eve's. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not going to get the same budget that you would at Avenue in New York or Up and Down as you would at Rose Bar. It's just not even comparable. So there's no incentive to bring in those guys right now because you got this homegrown talent that's just crushing it out the park. And typically, I will say the promoters do take a chance. I will give them. I will say that Heist has done a great job in bringing guys in. Um,
Shout out to stylist Chris at Heist and that staff there for sure.
yeah, they do a great job bringing guys in. I will say that even you don't see it. It's not like on a weekly basis where there's a different DJ at a Rose Bar or St. Eve's, but they do bring guys in every once in a while. The problem is they don't normally do good. So the promoters are just like, well, why would I pay 10 times the amount when I know what I have that works here? You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much why we don't see it that often.
Yeah, I think that's why promoters rock with their crew because they know, like, look, I can count on you to do a good job. You're going to show up. You're going to do a good job. That's that. My money is important to me. I don't want to lose my money. And especially in some of those
Exactly.
clubs when you're dropping $10,000 on bottle service, that's a lot of money to be losing, Like,
Yeah.
that's nothing to play around with.
It's nothing to play around with. And again, different from other cities. It's not like here your audience can literally leave their table and go across the street.
Wouldn't that be wild to see like some group of like people like, let's go from Eves to Abigail's real quick. Come on, pick up the
Yeah,
table. Let's go. Like, nah, that'd be
exactly.
wild.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's reverse track. You were talking about Velvet and auditioning at Velvet
hmm
for Joy with your home dude who you started Joy
Homegirl,
Club with.
homegirl, homegirl.
Homegirl, sorry, my apologies, homegirl.
Yeah.
I'm. This is why I interview you so I can know these stories. So
Nah,
I only
cool.
know a little bit about Joy Club. So, anyways, tell us the history. Like, give us the background of Joy Club. How did that start? What happened? And like, what were some like big chapters in your starting points that really kind of led you to believe that this was going to become something special as it is now? Because dude, I was talking to Jerome last week and we were talking about your tequila parties, your day parties, like, bro,
Yeah.
that's insane what you were doing with how quick you were selling out of tickets. Like, I don't know, man. Like I just don't see day parties like that anywhere else, to be honest with you.
Yeah, man. So Joy Club really got started in 2015. Me and Cam Dooley, we had met at a party at Kick Spot in Georgetown, the original location of Kick Spot. And the big thing about that party was two things. Me and Cam, we just struck up a conversation about like Stevie Wonder if we thought he was blind, right? And it was like the most random conversation. And in the middle of all this, a fight breaks out. And we both kind of looked at each other as just like, yo, we hate going out. And every time we go out, it's just such negative energy. It's just like everybody, I haven't seen this guy in 2 weeks, but I don't like him for whatever reason. So now I got to fight him and bring down everybody else's mood. So it's just like, yo, how do we create something where people don't feel like they have to do that? Where they walk into the room and they're just here to have a good time. It's not about your beef. It's not about, you know what I'm saying? I don't like the fact that he has these sneakers that I don't have, or the girl that walks in is just like her outfit is better than mine. It's really just about coming in, enjoying the music, and having a good time. And that's where the term Joy Club literally came from, because it's about being a happy place, a safe place, a place for people to have fun. And that's purely it. You should have no other expectation other than to have fun. Um, it's funny you bring up Jerome, because our first year anniversary was probably the first time that I felt like, oh, this could be a thing. And that was at Velvet Lounge. And I booked Jerome specifically because at that point in time, I mean, Jerome is still the big dog, but it was just like, if Jerome DJs this party, it completely validates us, you know? And I that was probably the most I've ever seen Velvet Lounge packed. Jerome not only killed it, he also bought Spencer Tracy as well. Spencer hopped on and did an amazing set. And I think it was a big deal because both Jerome and Spencer, they had heard things about Joy Club, but for them to actually see, oh shit, here's this audience that's young and vibrant, and really is kind of like a younger version of what Rock Creek Social Club was doing, and a little bit more energetic in a way. And no offense to anybody that attends Rock Creek Social Club, but it's just a younger demo, for just being honest.
I agree with that 100% because I've DJ'd both parties and I can tell you 100% you hit it
Yeah,
on the head.
yeah. So it was a big deal, and that was the first time where I felt like, oh, okay, it was a year. It was literally a year in. That was the first time where I felt like it was going to be something. And then the tequila parties, once that hit, because we had been doing Big Chief for about 4 months, and it was steady growing, 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 growing. Like the first one we did probably had like 200 people, and then by the fifth one, it was Cinco de Mayo. That one just blew up, and that was the beginning of every time you come to Big Chief. When we're there, the line is down the corner and around the block, and you probably won't get in if you don't get there soon. So I can't take all the credit for that. The Tequila Talk podcast definitely helped us in terms of like getting some like targeted, like, okay, let's do a party that's centered on tequila and promote it to this audience. And it just took off. Like that took us to a whole different exponential level that I never even thought we would get to.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some Pharrell shit right now. I think you should pair up with Tequila Talks podcast and do your own tequila and throw a launch party when we get out of this shit. Like have your
Oh
own
man,
tequila, dude.
you know, that would be amazing if that could happen. That
Joy
would be
Joy
amazing.
Joy Club tequila, dude.
Yeah, that would be crazy. I wouldn't even be mad at that. I really, really, really would enjoy that.
You never know. As I said,
Do I owe
some
you royalty? Do I owe you
nah,
royalties for that,
nah,
dude?
nah, nah, nah. We're homies, bro. Like I'm just saying, like that's some Pharrell shit. Like I,
Nah,
I I've been watching a lot of the drink champs,
yeah.
and like that Pharrell one really hit home so much to me. Was so much what he was saying about like just like religion and all. But that's another note. But like what he said, like how like you're gonna team up with an author and you're gonna write your book about the top 10 phone calls that you took, and you're
Mm.
gonna pair up with a florist that's gonna deliver flowers to give your artist
Yeah,
flowers.
yeah.
I like doing that for the homies because it's just like that one extra step that they may not have like thought of, and be like, dude, like Joy Club Tequila Talk podcast, the big tequila day party. Like, bro, think about that. Like, think about
Wow.
that.
You're right, man. You're absolutely right, and I appreciate it because I'm always the idea guy, and Pharrell is an idea guy. Like he's a heavy idea guy. Probably one of the best at the ideas. But for
Facts.
me, I sometimes I've like I think especially at this point, like I've forgotten that the things that we did were like kind of like a big deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, we used to do this party, once a month, and like 1,000 plus people would show up. Like to me, it's not even like and I got so used to it to it being a thing that not even thinking about, oh, this is like actually a thing that we could actually turn into something. Because I was just having fun. I wasn't thinking about that, but hearing that, I really appreciate it because it does let me know that it was probably something bigger than what I thought it was. For real, for real.
Yeah, man. I mean, as I said, it was impressive to say the least because
Hmm.
I've had the blessing of doing your parties and Jerome's parties, and seeing the amount of people that you guys pack into a place is just super impressive because it shows the outreach that you guys have of connections into the city and beyond. I think that's a major part to show that you guys in 5 years alone, right, have impressed upon that many people.
Yeah, we're going on. It'll be 6 years this May. So
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
it's incredible. I think we just hit the market at the right time. There was nothing else that really could serve that community in the same way. And then there was other parties like Adobo that have come up, and
Shout out to Pedro. Yeah,
yeah,
Adobo,
shout out to
man.
Pedro. Like they serve an audience and crush it just as much as we do. You know what I'm saying? So it was a beautiful thing to kind of see all these different, like the Rock Creeks, us, Feel Good when they were doing their thing. Everybody kind of hit their market and their audience, excuse me, and really just took off and found their niche and really just fell into it. So it's been a beautiful thing, especially in 6 years. Again, to think about it, it's a long time, but it's also a super fast time for that to happen. I guess.
Dude, it goes by quick, trust me. I mean, I've been out of high school for almost 15 years now, so
Yeah.
it goes by quick, man. All right, let's shift gears. Let's.
Uh huh.
Most people know probably by now that you're on the radio. Shout out to 93.9 WKYS.
Yeah.
And you kill it, dude. You and Bacon Bear, like your little show is super unique, and I love how you have the go-go portion of your show, like
Yeah.
the crank session. Like that is cool, man. Like I love how you do that. Like seriously, like please don't ever change that because like you really harness the city's sound very well, and it's a cool show. So you kind of take both and you somehow make them sound really good together, and that's really hard to do. So, um, first off, I want to know if you can say this.
Okay.
I want to know the one record that you didn't think was gonna like make it, and then it turned into something massive. Like you and I both know that you were first to guess "Boot Up" by LMA, and you were first to guess Sheck West Mo Bamba because we were playing that like a year in advance before anybody heard it because you
Yeah.
were playing it and in your sets. Like I think I one night I heard it 3 times in a party, like, and it just blew my mind. Like, okay, this is something. And
Yeah.
then Jay Espinosa played it in his Red Bull Three Style
Yeah.
national set, and it,
Yeah.
it it then set off like I'm telling you when he played that, you knew what that song was like. But
Yeah.
anyway, so if you can, one record that you at the time when you first broke it, you were like, eh, and then it actually turned in by playing it more, it actually turned into something pretty serious.
A record that I thought wasn't going to work that ended up working. I can't I can't think of one off the top of my head. That's really tough because I mean, I can tell you before I was a DJ, there's artists that I thought That's not gonna work. Like I didn't think Soldier Boy was gonna work, and Soldier Boy's still around. He's outlasted like whoever the same year. We could probably name 20 artists that came out the same year as Soldier Boy. He's outlasted all of them. In terms of records, since I've been on radio, that I can't really think of one. Maybe probably actually I'd say God's Plan. I didn't think was going to be that crazy.
Really?
Yeah, because the structure of it is weird. It's not a typical radio. Here's your hook. Here's your verse. Here's your hook. Here's your verse. And Drake is he's a genius because he really changed that. And I think what he was doing, he's playing against the Spotify algorithm. He's playing against the radio algorithm of how long you have to play a record to get it to account. So he's just literally he's screwing you he's screwing the DJ over because it's like if you make it this far to this point, what you're used to hearing and where you're used to transitioning, you can't transition. So now you're stuck. Now you can't get rid of me. So he figured that out, and that's why I think probably my first couple times I was just like, "This makes no sense." You know, she said, "Do you love?" Like, it's not a hook. This is not a hook. This is where the hook should be. But that ends up being like this huge thing, you know. So yeah, I guess it was God's plan. Where I was just like, "There's no way that people are gonna attach to this." But look at that.
Man, that's crazy. That's such a good like, dude. That's a good one. That surprises me. I like that, but I like being surprised. So
Yeah, yeah, nah, it surprised me too that it got that big.
I think that was my New Year's Eve of 2018 record I dropped at midnight. I want to say that was like I did Top Golf out in Loudon,
That's
and they had it was so sick because the manager came up to me. He's like, "What song do you think you're gonna play at midnight?" And I was like, "All right, here's my three that I think I'm gonna obviously might change it based on what I've got in front of me, but." So he's like, "All right, well, by 11:30, I need to know because we're going to sync the fireworks up to your music at midnight."
wow.
And it was insane. They literally so like the firework drops were dropping on beat with Drake's God's Plan.
That's crazy.
Dude, I've done shout out to radio DJs. They hooked me up with a lot of those gigs.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I did their like staff party out at Loudon. I did a bunch of Loudon gigs out there. And I can tell you that's probably the best Top Golf in the area, in my opinion. I haven't been to National Harbor yet, so don't hold me to that.
I,
But
yeah, I haven't been to National Harbor either, and I went to Loudon one time, and I remember I couldn't get a booth because it was just so packed. Like it was
yeah,
crazy.
Loudon on a Friday night would pop. Like in 2018, that would be a good solid gig, and Alexandria Top Golf would be a good solid gig.
Nice.
Okay, so top. Wow, so that man, I'm gonna save that clip. That's gonna be a good clip to save. All
Yeah.
right. So real top three.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Top three artists. Can you hear me now?
Hmm.
Okay. Top three artists you're following closely now.
Top three artists that I'm following closely. Now, let me go and look. This is so much music out right now. I mean, I don't know if this counts, but I'm gonna say her is number one, and she makes such great, fantastic music. She just hasn't had like that classic album, but I know that she has it in her where she can give us a confessions, she could give us, a classic R&B album, and we've been really kind of missing that for like a while. So, um another artist I'm going to say is PJ Morton, who's another R&B super soulful artist. I think he won a Grammy for the song he did with JoJo called Say So, which is an absolutely beautiful song. Like a song that I listen to very, very often. Um, and then I know you're probably looking for me to say like somebody more hip hop.
Nah, no. This is Malcolm, this is the best part. This is why I do these interviews because this is about Malcolm Xavier. And by the
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
folks,
yeah.
if you don't know how he spells the first name, to spell it correctly, it's
Yes.
Malcolm.
Yeah. And then another artist I'll say is Nucci. Um,
Yo, yo.
another artist, and if I could get a fourth, Matt McGee.
Okay,
But
I'm with you on Nucci. When I first was introduced to him through Risa, and I heard his music, and I was just like, this dude is.
nah,
When I
he's serious. He's for real.
when I heard his record, I think it was with 30 Black was the first record that I really started paying attention to.
Hmm.
And then it was he just kept coming dropping out with them a couple like this past couple of years. So and now he's bringing out more. So I'm super excited for his project, and it's cool to see that him and Risa kind of run together pretty closely because their shows. I mean, they have that one record together as well.
Yeah.
So it's really dope. Like it's a cool little community, you know.
Nah, I mean, I think Nooch is just like because I never Nooch is such an old soul that I never really knew how old he was. He's a lot younger than what I thought. And that's just based off of his maturity and how he moves. Um, but with that level of maturity and knowledge that he has, to be an artist, where he's at right now, whereas a lot of other artists his age are not able to articulate, their thoughts and emotions the same way that he can, at the same level he can. In my mind, if this was 10 years ago and the music scene was a little bit different and we audiences respected different things, Nucci would be the biggest rapper in the world. But I will say that because he still holds that and still holds that true to himself, he still will end up being like the top dog when it's all said and done, especially from this area. Because he's the complete package to me.
It would definitely be amazing to see that man make a career of himself because I'll say it for him, free his dad. His dad's in jail right now, so
Yeah, exactly,
free his
exactly.
dad like shit. But like, and his dad was talented too. Like his dad was a musician as well, so
Yeah,
it runs in the family. So
yeah,
I
exactly.
it, I agree with you wholeheartedly with that. I think Nucci has got a hell of a road ahead of him for himself. Like when he really puts this stuff out there and people really, really, really start paying attention to dude. And I know they are already. I'm not trying to take anything away from Guy because
No,
people
it's
are
just
really paying attention. But I just think I agree with you wholeheartedly when you say he's gonna be big because he is gonna be big. I agree with you 100%.
yeah, and you have to just if you spend some time around him, you see like he I don't even think he gets it like how far ahead he is when you talk to him, but he's really far ahead. He's super far ahead.
He reminds me of like Easy E with
Mm,
like new age like Wale. Like it's like
yeah,
I like kind of like a cross of those two. Like he's got fucking lyrics, man. Like he's got lyrics, and
yeah, that's why I said yeah,
he's
he's the real blend of like he's a street dude, but he you know what I'm saying, just because his background and where he comes from, he understands that world, but he can articulate it. And I think nowadays you miss that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the balance that people love about Jay-Z is that Jay-Z is a lyricist. No matter if whether you like him or not, he's probably one of the best lyricists ever. But he can also talk about certain topics that you had to be there to really be able to say. And I think Nooch has that same quality and talent level for real.
yeah. And people that are tuning in, you might hear some distortion in our audio. I apologize. I'm noticing a CPU spike, so there's my nerd moment right there. So I apologize to everybody's tuned in. This is recorded, so we will put this up later in. Next question, Malcolm.
What's pop?
All right. So I've been paying attention. I see you're getting into production side of things heavier lately. Just
Yeah.
been watching. So do you have any projects coming out that you can talk about? And has there been any other hobbies that you've gotten yourself into over this past year? That you focused on.
In terms of production, well, I'll say this, right? The whole I told the story about Cam and me starting to throw this party. But the reality of it was I was making beats well before I was DJing. So that's going back to I bought an MPC when I was like 20 and just learned how to start making beats. And actually, in terms of projects, I put out a whole rap album, and like a lot of people don't know that because I took it down off of everything. But yeah, I started like part of the other reason why I started DJing uh, was to get my name big enough to where I could just give out beats or get beats out to artists or they wanted my beats. So I think, yeah, where I'm at now, I don't have any projects that I could say are coming for sure, but there's definitely something coming. There's definitely a lot of different artists that I've, slipped a beat pack to here and there. So it's something coming. I just don't know when it's coming. I don't know what is coming on, but it's something coming. In terms of other things, like you probably seen, I spent time actually studying audio engineering. So that was definitely a thing. I spent some time. I took some college courses in TV and film production. So I really, learned that trade and learned that craft. And obviously, that's really hot right now with like Netflix and Amazon and Hulu spending hella money on TV shows
Apple
and
too. Apple too.
Apple, man, yeah, Apple has probably the most money out of everybody. But just
Yeah.
that's a booming, booming, booming industry. Um, in terms of the one other random hobby that I have, I watch a lot of history documentaries since the pandemic, like all different types of like I've learned a lot of information about things that I've always been curious about. Like, well, why did that happen that way, or how did? So I just got into a bunch of like random history docs on like YouTube, and I'll usually watch like one or two a day before I go to sleep.
Yeah, I have to admit, I love always checking out your stories because one, you're an early morning person by the looks, and you always do this early morning walk by the monuments, which is kind of what I like to do, but I do it at sunset instead of early morning.
Yeah.
And then like I love your watch like selection. Like you have some serious watch like favorites, and I had to chuckle about like you wanted Pharrell's watch, and then I found out how expensive that joint was, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm never getting that watch. But yeah, no, I guess you brought up another hobby of mine or two other hobbies of mine. Definitely my morning walk. Um, I think it's just important to have something as part of your routine, which you can sit, meditate, just have some peace and quiet to yourself. So I definitely make sure to start my day with that. I think it's totally great to do that at any point in time of your day, but I think it's important to do it, just to have that for yourself. And then in terms of the watches, man, that was just something where I learned about watches is, as we grow up, all we know is like Rolex, right? Because that's what all the rappers talk about. And we learn about, bust down watches where it's just like all the diamonds and all that stuff. But then when you start to learn about watches and how they're actually made and why this watch costs this much and why this watch costs this much and all the little intricacies and it becomes its whole nerdy thing. You know what I'm saying? For me, where like I can't tell you what every piece in the watch does, but I can tell you what different complications in the watch do and why. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, that was like a cool little hobby to pick up. It's like cars. Like some people like cars, and they could tell you about these different parts of the engine and why this car matters and why that car matters. I can do the same thing for watches. So that is something I picked up over time. Yeah.
You and my dad would be best friend. You and my dad would be best friends. He was a big watch guy, and
Okay.
for graduation, he gave me a crazy nice watch. And it's at my parents' house. I don't ever take it from there because it's so nice. But
You know what type
it's
of watch it is?
yeah, yep. It's a Citizens Navy Angel watch, and
That's
they're only given to the Navy Angel pilots. I
yeah.
don't know how he got it, but he's a retired Navy veteran himself. But
So
the watch
that's probably how he got it.
I maybe like I don't know, dude, but this watch is like it's titanium with a blue crown and it's got like gold like face, like little, like for each little hour inlet, and it's gorgeous, man. And it's got like the Blue Angels logo on it.
Yeah.
And it's like very thankful for stuff like that because it's kind of cool things like that our dads passed down to us. Like you should always have a nice watch, son, because you should look good in public with your, when you're out. And I think that's something that dads pass down generations, if we're fortunate enough to have that in our life.
Yeah, if we're fortunate enough to have it in our life, and I definitely want to be able to pass that down and so much more. When I have children, I definitely want to be able to have some things to pass down. And watches are amazing assets. That watch that you're speaking of, that's a very valuable watch. Very, very valuable, not just in the rarity of it, but just in the meaning, because the people that got it had to actually endure and accomplish something to get it.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
there's a whole different level of meaning when it comes to meaning and story when it comes to that watch, and that's super important to have too. It's not just like this is a great looking thing, but this is something that holds some weight there.
Yeah, I see DJ Trill in the chat. Shout out to DJ Trill. He was like, men like watches like women like purses, and he would like you to purchase him an Omega watch if you can.
Purchase him to ask him which one.
I'm not sure, but I'm not even sure what an Omega watch is. I've never heard of that brand. Maybe you have, but
Yeah, no, Omega's a good brand. Omega's a good brand. It's on that same. It's a little bit above the tier of Citizen. They have some like chronographs that are comparable to the Daytona. Like I would a Rolex Daytona. So I'm curious to which Omega he would be interested in. But it's a pretty good brand. It's a
okay,
pretty
cool. Yeah, I mean, I've only really focused on Citizen. That was what my dad rocked. Like
yeah.
he was a big Citizen watch guy, so like that's what I mean. Going to the jeweler, that's what the jeweler would present him every year when he would get his upgrade. Like that was his thing. Like that was kind of like his gift to himself every year. Like I want a good watch, and I'm gonna get a good watch every year. He was big on two things: you get a haircut every week, and you get a watch every year. And that was like his
Oh,
two
yeah.
big things in life. So.
Yeah, me and him would be best friends because I agree with both of those things.
And shout out to my guy, the God Barber. But okay, for barber wise, I don't know who your barber is if you want to give him a shout out, but yeah.
Yes, I got Jimmy, Jimmy the Legend.
Okay, shout out to Jimmy the Legend, the barber. So, all right, getting back to DJing, I want to know. I asked Jerome last week. I'm gonna ask every DJ this. I want to know your one DJ gig from hell, and why was it a DJ gig from hell?
Hmm. My one DJ gig from hell. I try to forget them typically. Um,
Don't we all?
I don't want to bring up this story because this guy gets mad when I bring up this story, right?
If you can't bring up the story, don't bring up the story. But we've already had controversy on here already with DJ Wonder, so it's okay if you cause it. That's fine. But just hold your bout when you cause it. That's all I gotta say.
I will say an artist who shall be unnamed. Um, I had a gig.
I
It was
think I know this story. I think I know this story.
an artist that I had a gig with. I didn't even have a gig with him. He pulled up and was like, "Yo, I want to DJ, blah blah blah," and I'm like, "All right, cool, whatever. Do your thing." I'm standing off to the side. Long story short, some liquor accidentally gets spilt on the laptop. Cool beans. It wasn't cool, but I'm past it now. I've grown, and I've moved on. That wasn't the gig from hell. The gig from hell was the next week. I was headlining Sax. In Sax, this is like Sax Wednesdays when Sax Wednesdays was popping. Same artist shows up to the club, and he's not trying to be in the booth because the booth. This is when they did. Sax had this weird booth, like
Yeah, it was like it was like off to the far corner,
yeah,
right?
up
Yeah, it was. Now
half.
it's in the middle up, and before it
Yeah,
was off in the corner.
Yeah, exactly. And half a person could fit into that booth, right? But I'm watching him, and he's like in the audience, and the host is like, "Yo, could you play some of his records?" And I'm like, they were all on the other laptop that got screwed up, so I can't really do anything. And that was an honest answer. I wasn't being a dick about it, but that was like my honest answer. I was literally on a loaner laptop for like a little bit, so I didn't have all my music, and all of his music was literally gone. But that resulted in him like storming out. He wasn't very happy with me, or I guess the club that night.
Yeah, we have shared this story. You have shared this story with me before. I definitely have gotten a chuckle from it. Uh,
I think it's funny, and
it's
he doesn't like when I say it because he thinks it makes it look bad. But I think it's like a Curb Your Enthusiasm skit. Honestly,
right. I was just gonna say that.
I think it's hilarious.
I think I've definitely dealt with some liquid damage before myself. One night it was I think Thanksgiving Eve at Heist. Jerome and I were talking about this last week. That you booked me for that night. Actually, that was a Joy Club night. It was a Wednesday night, and you had a
Oh,
gig somewhere else. You were double booked, and you're like, "Yo, I need you to cover for me at Heist." I
yeah,
think Jester was that his name? DJ Jester.
Gangster,
Yeah,
Gangster.
Jangster. Yeah, Jangster was opening, and then I closed the night out. Well, that was the night that they tried stealing the gold bullhead from off the wall. And it was just incredibly packed, and they ended up breaking. They spilled a drink on the left turntable. So thankfully, I had my right turntable, which is my scratch hand. So thankfully, I was okay. But
Yeah,
yeah, I've been liquid damage is nothing to mess around with. Kudos to you, man, for handling that. Like,
yeah. No, it's
been there, done that. Especially with a laptop, dude. Being a guy that works at Apple, there's barely anything we can do, man. Like to be honest
yeah.
with you, like there's just it's not much when there's liquid damage to things.
I still have the laptop. I just there's things on the hard drive I still want to get off. That's the only
If
thing.
if if it's a
I don't
separate
wanna do
hard drive and it's not like a newer one and it's an older model, that's a different question. But I could tell you though, if it's like a newer one, soon as that thing hits liquid, there's it's impossible to get it. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it. It's a
We will.
24.
Listen, I've done Alizé's for him. So you would be number two. So bring
Yeah,
it on over free of charge. Like you're a homie. Like I got you. So
I appreciate
let
that.
me know what we can do for you. Okay. Um, so if you weren't a DJ, music producer, radio guy, etc., we know you're kind of interested in TV film, which a lot of us are interested in on the side. What
Hmm.
would you be doing if you didn't do anything with music related? So you can do TV film if that's your choice.
Hmm.
But if you couldn't do anything music related, like you just were done with it and you wanted to completely switch, what would you switch to?
And the answer is not TV or film.
You can use TV film if that's your answer. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that would be my answer. That would be my answer for sure. When I was in college, I actually studied film, but I just never pursued it as a career. So it's kind of come full circle for me now. The fact that the pandemic has allowed me the time to really get into it in the industry and understand it. So that's what I would definitely be doing. It's just a dope. It's just another dope way to tell stories, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was a film kid in high school. I did film
Yeah.
through 9th through 12th grade. That was like my big
Okay.
thing. I was an announcer first. We had a TV we had our own dedicated TV channel on our cable like thing. And like I announced like lacrosse and wrestling because I played those sports in high school. So like
That's crazy because I did the same thing.
hey, that's what I'm
Same
talking
exact thing.
about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
like it. I used to do wrestling and lacrosse. Those are my two announce, and then I did camera and audio board when I wasn't announcing. So,
yeah, no, that was like my favorite class in high school. Like
who was your
favorite.
teacher's name? Who was it, Mr. or Mrs.?
It was Miss Ledoux. I'll never forget her. She was probably one of my best teachers, and she really taught me everything. I mean, not just me specifically, but our class a lot about film and how to watch film. And I'll never forget. She said, "After this class, you will never look at TV the same way again. You'll never look at a movie the same way again. And for the past 16, 17 years of my life, I've not been able to watch a film without remembering the things I learned in that class. You know, so she was absolutely right. It's absolutely right.
Yeah, I think high school teachers have a lot of lasting impressions on us in our later years. I think those are some solid growing years of personality and self identification. Like, and teachers help that and guide that in a really good way if they can be really impactful on our life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been super impactful, super duper impactful.
Okay. So let me see. Let me see. I think we got two more. Two more. You're doing, dude. This has been awesome, man. I've learned so much. All right. So we're after the gig. We're headed back to the hotel. We're headed back to our house. Whatever. What is your food you got to eat after a gig? Like, what's your meal that like you love to chow on after you DJ?
The food that I love to chow on after I DJ. Um,
Do you have like a favorite? Like, it could be a local DC thing, or it could be like just something that you absolutely like have to eat after to get your fill in.
hmm. I would say Surfside was like, a go-to just because of proximity and once you figured out the app, that was like the pro tip of like, oh, the line is long. Like, no, I'm just gonna walk up and grab my food. So Surfside definitely was like the go-to because it was the only full service, like for the most part full service thing that was really open. That would definitely be it for me.
So that's two mentions of Surfside now. Jerome mentioned it, but he was like, "I like to stay away because normally there's fights breaking out and it's pretty crazy over there after the club's let out." So,
That's why
but
that's why you need the app. You get the app
there
so
you
that you
go.
don't
All
have to
right,
stay
Jerome, you
home.
got to get the app. That's
Yeah,
Malcolm's tip to you. You got to get the app.
yeah. You get the app and you order on the app and you're done in like 30 seconds. You're not even there.
I have a funny. I don't know. Are you man? I have a memory of you in Surfside at what it Cloak and Dagger one night.
Oh man, no, yeah,
You
yeah,
weren't feeling so hot, dude. Like, I
yeah,
think, and it wasn't because you were sick. I think you said you ate it too fast, and like
yeah.
it,
No, I literally ate it too fast and it
and then
just
you
it.
went on and like still had a killer set. I was mind blown. I was like, what the hell? Like, I'd be done for. Like, funny story. Like, I got food. I got sick at Tropicalia one night. And I was done for. I had to go to the ER, and Oz had to fill in for me. Like, I was done for that night. So thank God for Oz. He could come in and fill in for me. So yeah, I mean, man, dude, you're a machine in my opinion.
Nah, I appreciate that.
Okay. Last question. You ready?
Yeah.
Top three DJ moments ever in your career thus far. So they could not be they're I don't want it based on clout because it was such a big gig and not many, I want this based on I think this was a top 3 gig in my career because I personally believe that that was a highlight in my career thus far.
I hear you. I get you. I understand. Um, Top three. I would say one would have, and I can't pick a specific one, but one would have to be DJing in Boston, and really because like Boston's like a up north city, like they're exactly like New York. How you said New York is very much like you need to know your hip hop. Boston, you need to know your hip hop, you need to know your reggaeton, you need to know your reggae, you need to know your dance hall, you need to know all of these different things. And if you don't know them and if you don't know how to play it in the exact way that we want you to play it, we don't like you. I didn't know any of it. So me coming in as this guy who's, does these parties that are mainly trap, or I'll do an all R&B party and da 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 da. I'm all over the place. It was one of those places again where traveling, I felt just appreciated 10 times more because I didn't do what they were used to and they loved it. You know what I'm saying? So that was definitely all my gigs up there. I would say would be number one. Um, two top two DJ gig ever without it being clout based. Um, I was, here's a weird one. It was radio, right? It's a radio one, and I don't know if this counts as a gig.
It does. It does. No, no, this is a moment.
My my program director at the time, J1, shout out to him. He's at Pandora now. I was asleep. It was like Saturday afternoon. It might have been Friday or Saturday afternoon. I was asleep, you know, before I had to go into work. And he calls me and says, "Hey, Jay-Z and Beyonce just dropped the album. You need to play it on the radio tonight." I was like, okay, are you going to send it to me? He was like, I don't have it. He's like, nobody has it. I was like, so how am I supposed to play it? He's like, figure it out. So somehow, some way, did some backdoor stream ripping things, like literally like ripping the stream from Tidal to then take it on air, like song by song. And it was such a moment because it felt like something from like the 90s where like people were like tweeting me and adding me and Instagram and like, yo, they got, this is the only place that has the Jay-Z and Beyonce album. And it was a real moment. So that was really cool because you in radio you don't get that a lot now because music, the consumer has it before we have it 9 times out of 10. But with these surprise albums from artists of this caliber, people were just excited, you know what I'm saying, to hear this new music because they didn't, not everybody had Tidal at the time. And then the third one. Um, this is really tough. I never thought this would be this tough to say what my top three gigs would be. Because the natural clout one is like to say, oh, Broccoli City Festival, right? Like that's the
Of
natural.
course, of course.
But no, I'm not gonna give you that. I'm gonna say, um, actually, it was Broccoli City Festival, but it wasn't Broccoli City Festival. It was Broccoli City Festival early last year, around this time last year, before the pandemic really hit. I did a gig at the Kennedy Center, and it was super dope.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I know
It was
exactly what you're talking about.
it was super dope because it was the Kennedy Center, but it was also the first gig that my mom had ever been to. So for me, that was really meaningful because this was the opportunity she could really, like, I had always talked about it, but until she saw it, it wasn't real. It's like it didn't, it was just like it wasn't a thing that existed. So for her to see that and see like people interact in that environment with me, I remember she left with a whole different view of what I do and appreciation of what I do. So that was a beautiful thing.
That's tight. You ended on that one, man. Shout out to the moms out there. Like, I
Yeah.
think my parents are elderly, so like my mom is 75, my dad is 76, 77. And I think that that moment may not ever happen for me, so
Mhm.
if it does, that would be super incredible, and I'm sure it was super like just like whoa kind of moments for you to look back on. As you said, like that's a big moment in your career to say your mom got to hear you DJ live and see you do what you do and what you love to do. That's the big moment that really I think parents like really focus on, is seeing their child get to a moment in their life where they're doing something that they love to do and they can see them do that, and to
Yeah.
the extent that you're doing it in, because technically, yeah, there's that moment where like, okay, little Johnny can DJ and he loves what he does, but he's just doing it for fun. And then there's Malcolm Xavier, who's doing what he loves to do, but also doing it at a high caliber rate and moving thousands of people, tequila, for example. So I think there's those differences. And I think, dude, like a parent seeing their child at doing it at that level and absolutely being passionate and showing the love, like, bro, you can't, I don't think you could ever beat that moment in a parent's life, in all honesty. Like, if you think about it.
Mm-mm. I don't think you can, but it was amazing. I can't replace that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Whew, I think, man, you hit a good one because I'm close to my mom as well, and I think that I would really hope someday that she does get to see me DJ. Like that would be tight.
Yeah.
But like, I also know that she knows I'm doing what I love to do, and this shit has been with me since I was 18 years old. So
Yeah.
it's just like she knows it's gonna stick with me for the rest of my life. So it's like I think she just knows like it's a in the know kind of thing instead of like visually seeing me do it. So
Yeah.
plus I really don't think my 75 elderly year old mother would be cool with like partying with me down in Heist or wherever. Like I would I would keep her protected in somewhere, super super safe. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
I
Same
just
thing.
dude. But okay, Malcolm. Last thing, real quick, before we let you go, give out your socials. Give out Joy Club's socials so we know where to find you, and
Hmm.
also plug your radio shows at 93.9, and all of that stuff too. So the floor is yours for all your plugs.
Appreciate you. So yeah, it's me, Malcolm Xavier. You can follow me everywhere at Malcolm_X. That's MALCOLM_X. Follow Joy Club at Joy Club DC. That's everywhere. Definitely check out our site, joyclubdc.com. And then also make sure to follow Little Bacon Bear. That's at Little Bacon Bear. With me at 93.9. Every night, Monday through Saturday, we rock out. We play the dope music from everywhere else, and then we put on for the city with the crank session. So appreciate you again for having me, bro. It's been super dope.
Dude, this has been awesome. So, chat, one more time, give it up for Malcolm Xavier. It has been an honor having him with us. Next, we have the DMV Top 10 Music Videos of the Week. And yeah, man, Malcolm, thank you so much, dude. I appreciate having you.
Appreciate you, bro.
Been
Thank
a
you for.
pleasure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let me chat. Let's go to a commercial break real quick, and then I will be right back.